Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've gathered your sources, the articles, internal notes, all the case studies, and today our mission is to cut through that information overload.
Yeah.
We're going to tackle a core tension in the modern consumer world. Why is it that trends move at the speed of light, but the systems we use to, detect them seem stuck in slow motion?
It's the ultimate race against the flock, isn't it?
It really is.
Our mission today is to unpack this huge strategic shift that's happening right now. We're seeing organizations move away from just analyzing last quarter's numbers
Right.
to actually trying to understand and predict the present moment. Because really, that's the only way you can get ahead of a trend.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the central theme, the one you just can't ignore in all this material, is that the world is just moving too fast. Way too fast for the tools we built, say, a decade ago.
That's the temporal disconnect we have to solve. I mean, we've built these research systems that thrive on structure, on stability.
Predictability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the market itself is now chaotic. It's spontaneous, it's immediate.
Let's ground this in the real world. There's a crucial anecdote in the source material. It comes from a senior leader at a global FMCG brand, a huge consumer goods company.
Right.
And this person was talking about their innovation pipeline, and they just stopped and said something that, it sums up the entire problem. They said, quote, "By the time we see a trend, it's already over."
That quote should be on the wall in every marketing department.
Right.
It just perfectly illustrates that internal cycles planning, budgeting, all of it, they're built on quarterly or even yearly timelines. But the customer, who's driven by digital culture, they're operating in real time.
The moment a product hits the shelf, they're already talking about the next thing.
And nothing shows this faster pace, this consumer volatility, quite like the case study on yogurt. This isn't just about food. It's like a condensed history of how fast consumer attention shifts now. Exactly. Think back just a few years. Step one was the huge, undeniable dominance of Greek yogurt. It completely disrupted the market.
But the disruption didn't stop there. Once Greek yogurt was a household name, the market was already evolving past it. You had that rapid shift to Icelandic skyr with its high-protein appeal.
And that was immediately followed by a wave of consumers who wanted these hyper-specific wellness benefits.
Yeah, they wanted probiotic blends, then explicit gut health formulations.
And now, finally, you've got all of those things bundled into versions that are also plant-based, dairy-free, or have some niche flavor.
That is 4 or 5 huge category-shifting evolutions in maybe 5 years. And the core insight, which the source material really nails, is where these shifts actually started. They weren't cooked up in Arnie labs.
What's so fascinating is that the demand was already forming in public, long before corporate America was even paying attention. Yeah, those subtle shifts in taste, they first showed up in search queries, people looking for recipes or ingredients, or in TikTok comment threads, where creators were talking about wellness hacks, or in these very specific niche wellness forums.
So, okay, if the signals were there, why did the old tools fail? Why is this massive global company always looking in the rearview mirror?
Because traditional systems are built for a slower, more predictable world. Just think about sales data. It confirms what you sold last month.
It's history.
It's pure history. It's essential for accounting, sure, but strategically, it tells you what already happened. That means your launch window for an innovative response is already closing.
And what about the other main tool, traditional consumer research like surveys and focus groups? What's the lag there?
Well, surveys are tricky. They often capture what people think they pay attention to or what they remember doing weeks ago. They smooth out all the jagged, noisy early signals.
So you lose in the nuance.
You lose the spontaneity. They almost never capture that moment of discovery, that 5-second TikTok that sends 1 million people searching for a new ingredient. You're relying on this delayed, rationalized version of what people did.
So if you wait for confirmed sales or quantified survey results, you're not just a few steps behind.
You've likely missed the entire moment, the entire opportunity.
You're essentially letting your competitors define the category.
That you should be leading. Precisely. We have to internalize this pattern. Organizations are built around the quarter, but customer behavior moves in the space of a minute. And that lag, that's where you're vulnerable.
Okay, so if the signals are happening in real time, where are they actually forming? This gets us into our next section, because the actionable intelligence isn't sitting in quarterly reports. It's happening in places brands rarely capture.
Absolutely. This is where the true competitive edge is hidden.
And it's hidden in the messy corners of the web.
The messy, high-volume, unstructured corners of the web.
Our sources get into these very specific digital touchpoints, the incubators for future trends. It might be, say, a relatively small creator on TikTok talking about a new, obscure ingredient.
Or think about those deep dive forums, right?
Yeah.
Reddit threads full of obsessed, vocal early adopters. They're reviewing and hacking and looking for solutions to problems for things that don't even exist yet. They're literally defining the white space.
And crucially, search volume. You see search volume spike for a product type that hasn't even been commercialized yet.
Or maybe a YouTube nutritionist explains a specific benefit in a viral video, and suddenly that exact term, that vocabulary, is being used everywhere.
That's the ignition point.
Those are the early indicators. But you've hit on the core technical challenge here. If all this data is public, out in the open, why can't a brand just hire a huge team to read everything?
I'm guessing the sheer volume, the noise.
That's exactly it. But let's look at how. The signals are early, they're scattered, and they're often really subtle. Think of it less like a loud fire alarm and more like hundreds of tiny whispers.
So like a small spike in searches for a niche ingredient, but only in 3 cities.
Yes, or a little cluster of reviews, all pointing to the same, very specific, unmet technical need in a new phone.
So the signal isn't a headline, it's a pattern that connects a search, a comment, and maybe a review, things a human analyst would really struggle to link up manually.
Right. The problem isn't a lack of data. It's the volume of unstructured data. No human team can read it all and connect those weak, disparate signals in real time. Organizations are truly, as they say, surrounded by signals, yet starved for insight.
Starved for insight.
They just don't have the computational power to sift through the noise and find the pattern that comes before the transaction.
So if an organization's default tools only measure the past, and the crucial signals are forming in this ocean of messy data in the present, we need a whole new way of thinking.
A fundamental shift.
We need platforms built on a different assumption, that you have to forecast from the present, not from history. And this is where the source material introduces solutions like i-Genie.ai.
This type of technology is engineered specifically to bridge that time gap. Instead of asking, what did we sell last quarter, it asks, what are millions of people actively curious about today that they weren't curious about a week ago?
So how is this fundamentally different from, sophisticated web scraping or social listening tools? Brands been doing that for years.
That's a great question. It really gets to the technical detail. Traditional listening identifies volume, the what and how much.
How many mentions?
Exactly. Live signal intelligence, the kind of approach that i-Genie.ai takes, it focuses on identifying meaningful change. It's not just the mention count of plant-based. It's the sudden simultaneous rise in searches for plant-based high-protein recipes alongside discussions of pea protein alternatives in niche forums.
It's the clustering of those weak signals.
It's the clustering that turns it into a coherent, forward-looking trend. That's what matters.
Okay, so what specific public signals are these advanced systems scanning to build that present tense forecast?
They're focused entirely on real-time public intent and discovery. So that means search queries, unstructured social conversations, creator content showing early adoption, reviews, recipe sites.
Niche wellness forums.
All of it. By combining these early clues, you get a view of what is forming, not just what is already formed.
But surely that kind of real-time scanning and analysis must require prohibitive resources. What about smaller brands?
That's the key. The technology is becoming more accessible. And the ROI, the return on investment, it really speaks for itself. The sources point to a major public case study with a global skincare brand.
A brand that used this exact early trend detection approach.
They did. And this advantage translated directly into a quantitative dollar value.
How much?
Well, because the brand could spot the rise of specific new ingredients in skincare routines, seeing the movement while it was still forming in those subtle digital places, they could accelerate their R&D and their marketing spend ahead of everyone else.
And that lead time translated into?
A reported $70 million in incremental revenue.
70 million. Wow. So when you synthesize the so what, the real-time solution isn't just offering information. It's offering a strategic currency, which is time.
That's the ultimate strategic takeaway. This type of analysis gives an organization time to prepare, time to innovate, and time to genuinely shape a category instead of just chasing it. In these fast-moving markets, that time difference is everything.
It's the difference between leading and missing out completely.
Exactly.
Okay, let's pivot now to Section 4 and zoom out a bit. Let's look at the broader competitive landscape for retailers and brands, say, as we approach 2026. Because this pace of change isn't just accelerating, it's now being dictated entirely by creator culture and these micro communities.
Precisely. And so this live signal intelligence is rapidly moving from being a niche tech to a core strategic asset.
The sources frame it as being comparable to how we viewed, what, supply chain visibility or digital commerce a few years ago.
That's the perfect analogy. It's becoming table stakes for survival and growth.
Let's make the distinction between the two data types really clear for the listener one last time, but let's apply it to decision making. So, how does historical data versus real-time signals actually change a brand's product roadmap?
Okay, so historical data explains what customers did. If your Q4 sales spike because of a certain color of shoe, historical data confirms that. It confirms success, and you replicate it.
Right.
Real-time signals, on the other hand, they reveal what customers might do next. If you see a cluster of searches for a new athletic material coupled with reviews complaining about moisture in your current bestseller, you're not just confirming the past, you're predicting a future failure.
Which means your product roadmaps change from just reacting to losing market share to actually anticipating customer needs before they even become a measurable problem.
And that's the risk reduction part of it. It shifts marketing from a responsive function to a predictive one. Instead of pouring money into promoting last year's trend, you allocate budget to seeding the conversation around the one that's forming today.
And this capability, it isn't just siloed within one tool. The source material really emphasizes that this is a growing ecosystem of startups all pushing these boundaries.
That's right. The field is maturing very quickly. You have various players specializing in different parts of the signal chain. Startups like Nimble, which is focused on supply chain signal analysis.
Interesting.
And then you have firms like i-Genie.ai and Unstructured, which are all about refining the capture of that messy, unstructured data.
And others like Data Genie, Tembi, Harmonia, alongside our key example, i-Genie.ai, they're focused on synthesizing that data into consumer-facing predictions for specific areas like beauty or food.
Exactly. They're collectively building the infrastructure that lets organizations move from just reacting to being truly prepared. This is the new engine of innovation.
So let's bring this all back to you, the learner. The key takeaway here is clear. The traditional model of waiting for confirmation is, well, it's obsolete. You have to integrate tools and approaches that let you move with confidence while a trend is still just forming.
The brands that can see the next consumer movement first are the ones that don't just participate in the market. They actually define it. They're the ones who can invest in innovation with conviction because they know the demand is already brewing.
So what does this all mean?
Well, if historical sales data explains your current success, what you're selling best right now, what invisible signal today, a comment in a niche community, a new vocabulary term on social media, a spike in search for a benefit that hasn't even been commercialized yet, what signal is forming the trend that could make your current bestseller completely obsolete tomorrow?
That's the question.
That's the question that dictates survival. You need to find those quiet, emerging changes in your own field and seek out the market-wide spaces they illuminate. That's the difference between being a leader and being a laggard.
A fantastic challenge to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.